Generated an extra 400K per month of revenue for this coaching business in the last 90 days. And in this video, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step blueprint on how you can do the same. So you can just copy and paste it and achieve similar results with your business. And this is going to be your typical, scale your business video where I give you generic advice about posting more content or working harder. I'm going to show you the 4 specific scaling secrets that most operators will probably never tell you, right? Because they don't want you to know, they want to gatekeep it, and they want to keep it for their highest paying clients. But I'm not going to gatekeep anything. So by the end of this video, you're going to have the complete blueprint that I personally use to help this coaching business add an additional 400K a month cash collected. So if you're a coach or consultant who's still not past the 6-figure revenue mark per month, watch this video and let's get it. And so before I reveal the blueprint, let me tell you what this coaching business actually looked like before I came in, right? They had a good offer, they had a lot of clients, they were making money, but there was still so much money being left on the table month in and month out. Sound familiar? That's when they brought me in, right? And that's when I implemented the 400K blueprint, 4 scaling secrets that completely transform their business. So here's what you can actually do to, achieve these things and the best practices to do to actually make sure you're hiring right and keeping your setups, right? So first things first, I would highly recommend everyone partner with a sales coach. There's a bunch of them on Instagram. Find one that has good reps, good results from their reps, and partner with them and only source your reps from them. You can find 1 or 2 depending on how big your team actually is, how many setters you need, closers you need. But again, partner with a sales coach, right? It'll save you so much time when it comes to the hiring process, right? You don't need to be outreaching in Facebook groups or anything like that. Second thing is clearly define on the interviews the culture and the vision of your business, right? Because again, the last thing you want is someone who doesn't fit in the vision and doesn't fit with the culture, and they just waste your time, they churn out quickly, and then you have to replace them in a week. That's what happened to me multiple times, and I can tell you firsthand, it is so annoying to keep on hiring people because, you hire 10 people, 8 of them leave, and then you're left with 2. And then you have to go out and hire another 10 people just because I wasn't doing my own due diligence on the fit of the person themselves, right? Their personality. And there are specific questions you can kind of ask, see what they actually want out of their life, right? Do they just want to stay as a setter, or do they want to move up, have their own business, et cetera, right? Because the people that want to make their own business, become a closer, have higher aspirations, naturally see that, hey, like this opportunity could be step 1 in my journey. Let me lock in, maximize it, and go from there, right? But if someone is just coming into your company and saying, yeah, I just want to be a setter forever, bro, that's not somebody you want to have, truth be told. So that's something also to look out. And again, that kind of goes hand in hand with this, right? Be very selective of who you're hiring. And then just overall, figure out where exactly in your business the bottleneck is, right? So for example, this business, we found out that thousands and thousands of leads were getting wasted each and every single month, right? So that was the bottleneck, the biggest bottleneck that was not allowing us to scale. So by hiring people, partnering with these coaches, hiring the right culture fit, having vision aligned, selective process, we were able to get rid of this bottleneck. And then now all of these leads that were here that were just ended up being like this, now we have this road stays open, this road stays open, and now we have multiple avenues to maximize our revenue. So the first scaling secret is called the bottleneck elimination system, right? Why do you have this many leads in the pipeline, but you're only converting this many right here? So for this business in particular, I noticed that thousands and thousands of leads were getting wasted, right? They had an organic funnel, they're going straight to the closer, and pretty much 500 to 1,000 leads per day were not getting hit up, right? And so what would happen to them? Literally nothing, right? They would just sit there, no one would call them, no one would talk to them and see if they were interested. And so they were losing out on pretty much 300 to 400K in additional revenue per month, right? So what did I do to actually combat this? I hired a team of 20 setters to go and dial each and every single lead and make sure that the ones that were interested were able to hop on a call and see if they were a potentially good fit to become closed and become a part of, the product that we were selling. So these were the 3 kind of things that I did. First of all, it was a very selective process to hire, right? I didn't want to just hire anyone. I wanted to hire people with the strongest work ethic possible, right? Another thing I'm gonna mention later in this video is the trading system on how I'm able to take, B players and C players and make them into A players. But the very minimum is that they have a work ethic, right? I don't want to hire just anybody. I want someone who has some skin in the game, that's actually going to be a good fit, is going to put the work in. Second thing, speaking of good fit, they need to be culturally a good fit and have the vision aligned, right? I would take someone who's 100% a culture fit and have a good vision than someone who has, the craziest skill in the world. Just because I know the person who fits the culture and has that vision to be something bigger than themselves will 100% of the time outwork the person who just naturally is a good seller, right? These people kind of churn. They don't want to stay with your company. But if you can hire the right fits culture-wise, your setter churn rate is going to be very, very low. You're going to actually have people who want to work there. And again, it's going to increase the internal competition and the skill level of your team, right? When each and every person on your team wants each and every person other than them to win, it's a very easy place to work at and make money from, right? Lastly, I partnered with a bunch of sales coaches, right? Hiring and finding these people who actually have skin in the game in sales is very, very difficult. So what I did was I partnered with, 1 or 2 coaching programs, and they directly funnel me setters every single week, every single month, right? So I don't need to go, spend money to do recruiting. I don't need to spend money outreaching to setters. I don't need to, spend time posting in Facebook groups. I just have an application link, and every single time a setter is good enough, based on their standards, which I know I've come to trust, they get sent an application, they fill out the application, and then obviously I have the final say, have an interview with them, a group interview with them, and then if they're a good fit, I hire them, right? But again, having this partnership with these sales coaches has saved me so much time in finding the right people, right? Because most of the people who buy sales programs in the first place, they're going to be much more dedicated to actually dialing than someone who's just randomly you're going to hire from a Facebook group, right? Because they've spent money on a program themselves. They're actually, like I said, invested into their training. So they have a very baseline level of skill set that can be worked with and made better, right? But if you're just hiring from Facebook groups with random people, their intentions may not be the same as someone who has skin in the game. Secret number 2 is actually called the performance multiplication framework. And I know a lot of you guys in the info space know there is a big shortage of actual good sales reps right now. There's a high churn rate. People are offer stacking. People are not there for the long term. They just want to grab their money and get out. They don't really give a fuck about you or your company, right? And so what if I told you there's actually a way that you can breed A player sales talent within your company itself, right? Not having to hire A player sales talent, which is harder and harder to come by every single day. So this is the 3-step system that we kind of have in place to actually make anybody go from a B player, C player, whatever, into being an A player setter. So first things first, we have a full length course. Mostly people I hire lack so many of the fundamentals, but they have the work ethic to be a good sales rep, right? So we have this entire mini course. It's about 3 to 4 hours long of videos for them to watch. And what we do within this course is cover everything from report building to gap building to desire of the prospects to the consequence, right? It's not just basic, qualify the lead and put them onto a closer's calendar. No, that's not the way we run things, right? This and teaching them all these different kind of more advanced sales stuff that you would want a closer to know, it almost allows us to pre-sell a prospect before they even hop on the closing call, right? Which increases our close rates. It does in some ways increase our show rates as well, because again, they're more bought into what we have to offer. And everybody just collects more cash because we are able to encapsulate more of the market, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Second part are the group trainings, right? We host 6 group trainings a week, each about 30 minutes to an hour long. We uncover any issues that the entire group may be having, and then we do call reviews and mock calls to see where exactly specific people are having issues, right? It allows me as the manager to identify where exactly the bottleneck is within the sales side of things, whether it's a skill set or it's a lead issue or whatever, and allows me to actually go ahead and fix it right away, right? Because we don't want to be sitting on the same issue for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then wonder why performance is dropping off. And then finally, I don't see a lot of people do this, is have one-on-one calls with all your sales reps, right? Even if you have 20 sales reps, 30 sales reps, find a time, 10, 15 minutes out your day to check in with them once a week maybe, and make sure that they're actually aligned with the company's vision and they have their own vision for themselves, right? One of the biggest things that I noticed with my setters was they didn't really see a vision bigger than just being a setter, right? So that caused them to be demotivated. They didn't want to work. They didn't want to put the hours in that was needed to see the results. And so it was really easy for them to get discouraged and not work out, right? But by implementing one-on-one calls, I pretty much have a one-on-one call with each one of my setters every single week. It allows me to, 1, keep them accountable to what they're doing, 2, give them actual feedback on their calls and give them, personalized feedback, right? Obviously the group trainings are good, but having that one-on-one time with them is even better. And then lastly, it also helps me help them paint a vision for themselves, right? Obviously your sales reps are not trying to be sales reps forever, right? At least most of them, especially setters. So painting that vision, path to progression, becoming a closer, or helping them learn that, hey, like these skills that you're learning right now are going to help you whenever you want to open your own business. That has helped lower our setter churn rate to be much, much, much better. And again, these three things together, what it'll do is it'll give you A players within your business, right? A player sales talent. And the reason why this is so important is because for us specifically, we're able to capture more demand in the market, right? We're not just selling to people who are product aware or solution aware and just having them qualify the prospect and send them through. No, we're also able to help people and sell people who are problem aware, or maybe they're even at a stage in their life where they're unaware of the issues that they're having, right? Because we're able to, reframe their mindset, right? Break some limiting beliefs that they may have had that's caused them to not organically book in a call with the closer. And through doing those, we're able to recover so much more revenue than just any other sales team does, right? Simply because we try to encapsulate more of the market by training our setters specifically on how to get gap, how to get the real desires, and how to have a consequence with the prospect. What are some actionable steps that you could take to implement the same things? Hands down, biggest thing, of course, that's like, you need to make this specific to your offer, because it'll train them not only to be better at all these different sales things, but also train them on the specific offer that you're selling. Group trainings and one-on-ones, I would by far recommend to hire somebody. If you're not good with sales, hire someone to train your reps, right? Because it's going to pay you dividends if they're able to collect, extra 50 to 100K a month in cash because they're just getting trained better. That'll allow you to spend more on ads, that'll allow you to grow your business, have more cash flow, whatever. You're just going to make more money, right? And also, if your reps are only selling to people who are aware of your product, right? They're product aware. That means you're losing out on people who are potentially able to sell in the solution aware stage or their problem aware stage, right? So being able to have setters specifically that can set people who are just problem aware, just solution aware, not just be some basically glorified qualifier, that'll allow you to capture more demand in the market and of course make more money. So scaling secret number 3 is called the revenue maximization system. And so most people, most coaches, consultants, whatever, will tell you that, hey, you just need more leads to scale. What if I told you that you already have an extra 50 to 100K just sitting in your pipeline waiting to be collected? And so these are the 4 things that we use to make sure that we're maximizing and collecting the most amount of cash from every single lead that we have. So first things first, we have new reps hitting up older leads. And the reason we do this is because, for 2 reasons. One, like I just mentioned, we probably have 50 to 100K already sitting within the pipeline waiting to be collected. So these new reps can go and hit them up. But it's also a way for them to prove themselves as they are new to your offer, right? You don't want them hitting up the freshest leads right away because they could waste it. They could do something wrong. You just don't know. There's a lot of variables that are out of your control. So putting them on the older leads as a way to prove themselves is the best thing to do. Also, it kind of helps you separate who's an A player and who's not. Then an A player will go into the older leads, dial them, and collect you an extra 10, 20K in their first week. And then the people who are, lazy, not a good fit for your team, they're just gonna, get out, or they're gonna leave because, oh man, like I'm not getting the fresh leads. Right? So it's a good way to also separate the A player from the C players and the B players. Second thing is we made speed to lead a competition, right? It's an internal competition. We pretty much have, 5 or 6 guys waiting at any given time for a new lead to opt in and then instantly dial them, right? So our speed to lead right now is literally under 5 minutes for new opt-ins. And again, we've pretty much gamified it for the setters to make sure that they have an incentive to go and hit the lead. And the way you have to paint this picture is also like the newest leads that are in the pipeline, they're going to be the one that you're probably going to collect the most amount of cash from, right? So why would you not be there waiting for them? And so by having, 5 or 6 guys just waiting for a new opt-in to come through, it also, again, allows us to hit the lead up while they're even filling out the application, right? So that way our pickup rates are way higher. The response rates are way higher, and they actually get on a conversation while they're filling out the form, and they're still like on the website. So they're, the offer is still in their mind and everything like that. Third thing is we dial them multiple times within the first day. I don't really care how you do this. There's many different ways to do this, but at the very least, each and every single one of your new opt-ins should be dialed 6 times on the first day. So, different double dials, 2 to 3 hours apart at the very least. if you have a lead that comes through and you're not hitting them at least, 3 or 4 times on the first day, you're just losing so much money, right? Because most people, unless again, your speed to lead is A+, sometimes it's going to be a little bit slower, but unless your speed to lead is like under 5 minutes, you are going to sit here and waste so much money just dialing them once, right? Because again, if you dial them 30 minutes after they opt in, they could be doing something else, they could be at school, they could be working, and if that's the only time that you dial them, what about the times when they're back at home, right? What about their times when they have their work break? So dialing them 3 or 4 times, specific, different times within the first day, that actually increases the chance that they actually respond to you, right? Because you're hitting them at different times of the day so that you can maximize, hey, like, oh, this guy's gonna pick up, right? Because as you dial more and more times, the likelihood that they pick up is also much, much higher. And then lastly is dialing no-shows. It seems so obvious, but I see so many people not do this and they just let no-shows leave their pipeline, right? So instead of having our closers waste their time and dial up their own no-shows, we have setters go in and do it for them. And the funny thing is we had a brand new setter that strictly dialed from the no-show tab that we have set up for our offer, and he collected 20K in cash on his first week on the offer. Brand new setter, he was even very new to this whole setting process in general, and collected an extra 20K. So again, not only do you have, leads, old leads just sitting in your pipeline waiting to be collected, but if you are not dialing your no-shows or have specific people dialing your no-shows for you, you're losing so much money, right? Because people just don't show up for no reason. So, some people do, but if you're able to have a setter go and convince them to, get back on the call, and then you put them back on a call with the closer, the likelihood of them closing is much higher as well. Or maybe, life just gets in the way. They weren't able to reschedule for whatever reason. And some people just don't want to reach back out to you because they feel embarrassed or whatever. So having somebody go out of their way to reach back out to these people who no-showed, you're going to collect an extra 10, 20, 30K a week just by doing this. So if you're not dialing your no-shows again, you're going to be losing out on so much money. And so those are the 4 things that we do to maximize our revenue. The secret number 4 is called the predictable pipeline method, right? One of the biggest issues I see with most coaches and info businesses right now is that they don't actually know the data needed to hit whatever revenue goal that they have in mind, right? So they want to make 100K a month. They think they need to keep spamming and getting new leads, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 leads in a month to actually hit those goals. When that's just not the case. And you could probably achieve it with much less leads if you actually tracked every single metric that I'm about to mention right here. So first things first, new leads is very simple, right? How many new leads are coming into your business? We track that for obvious reasons. We want to see how many people we're getting from the content we're posting and stuff like that. Second thing is dials, right? So say I get 500 new leads in a month. The dial to lead ratio should be about 5 to 6, right? So 2,500 to 3,000 dials per month, right? If I'm getting 500. And based on this, we can estimate the amount of book calls and the book to close rate. So let's just say our book call ratio is about 10%, right? Of this 50, we can do 50 book calls, and the book to close rate accounting for no shows, let's just say is, 20%, right? So that means that we're closing about 10 deals in a month, hypothetically. So now what I can do is I can calculate and reverse engineer this for every single setter that I have, right? Say for example, I have 3 setters on the team and I need to get 3,000 dials in the month. Now I know each setter just needs to do 1,000 dials a day, $1,000 a month, sorry. And then I can break that down by the day, by the week, by the hour, whatever you need to do. And then I can set realistic KPIs based on that, right? So the KPIs that we have set in place right now is 150 dials or 4 quality book calls. Obviously we're running at a scale that's bigger than 500 new leads a month, but again, the point still stands, right? I've pretty much reverse engineered and figured out, okay, we're getting this many new leads per month, we're getting this many book calls per month. How many are the leads getting optimized? If they're not, then I need to go hire more to get more dialers, to get more dials put on the board, right? And if this KPI of 4 book calls is not being met on average by each setter, right, then I can go and say, okay, so there's probably an issue with the lead quality. That's something that we could talk to the marketing or whatever about and see if we can fix. And so by knowing each and every number needed to hit your goals, it's almost impossible for you not to hit them, right? Because every single input you need to hit 100K a month or to hit 50K a month. And so if you don't track them, you actually don't know this, right? So your book to close rate could be, let's just say 5%. And you could just be saying, oh, let me just get more leads and more leads and more leads in. But the issue is not with the leads that you're getting in, it's actually with your closers, with your sales team, with your no-show rate, whatever the case may be. So tracking these metrics is very, very important. And so some steps that you can take within your business right now is set up a predictable system or a spreadsheet, a Google Doc, a dashboard, whatever, to track these specific metrics, right? Dials, book calls, book to close rate. I'd even, argue show rate as well. And then you can go then and reverse engineer it per setter, per closer, and per sales rep on your team. After I was able to, implement these systems and processes within the business, the results were that the revenue increased by 300 to 400K per month. There was a full team dedicated to hitting up old leads and making sure not too many of them were slipping through. And obviously the biggest thing is, once implemented, it didn't really take too much time to manage, but again, it's giving substantial returns month after month. And this is not something, that's it's some witchcraft, some alchemy. No, it's a repeatable blueprint, a repeatable process that can be used within any coaching, consulting, or info business. So that's the exact blueprint that I used to generate this business, over 400K a month additional revenue. And so the information in this video can genuinely change the trajectory of your business, right? So I hope you took notes and got value from it. But at this point, you have two options. You can try to implement this yourself, spend months figuring out the details, making mistakes, and hope something sticks. Or you can get help from someone who's already done this multiple times and knows exactly how to implement these systems properly. And if we're being honest, if you're not at 6 figures a month yet, you definitely need this help, right? You need someone to implement this correctly for you. And that's why I want you to click the first link in the description and book in a strategy call with me. On that call, I'll show you exactly how we can implement the same blueprint in your coaching business and get you the same kind of results as I did for this client. And this is for you if you want to, avoid doing all that extra work, spending months and months and months figuring shit out just for nothing to happen, right? So if that's you, click the link below, book in a call, and let's see what we can do.